So it's been about a month since I've put out a video, and while I don't have anything in particular that I needed to show you guys that I've been working on, it just felt kind of weird to not put out a video for a really long time. In general, I like making videos, right? It's one of the reasons I started the YouTube channel was because it was like a way to sort of express myself and get a chance to talk about whatever, this, that, or the other, or to have an excuse to do like creative endeavors like the film that I made and stuff like that. And so not using the channel, not making videos, anything like that feels weird. Like it feels like I'm just being lazy or not taking advantage of something that I could be taking advantage of. And so because of that, I feel I'm gonna, sort of talk about what I've been doing for the last month, even though it's just kind of been lots of disparate random things, nothing like major in particular. I have been playing lots of games. I have been playing some more Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. One of the things about playing VR games is it's kind of hard to get through a full VR game when your headset dies, because I use a Quest 2 and I do PC streaming. And so, I like it being wireless. I don't want to have to plug it in, so it'll die, and then I could play while plugged in, but I just don't do that, so I play like in 2-3 hour increments, so it is taking a while to get through it. But I was playing some Saints and Sinners. Was playing Death Stranding. I actually played through and beat Death Stranding, so that's fully done, which is fun. Great fucking game, really great. Honestly, very unique. I think that's one of the big things is there's a lot of games out there, right? And a lot of them, even if they are different games, they feel similar, right? Maybe you get like one shooter that feels a little bit different than the other, and that's nice and all, but in the end, you still just sort of run into this thing where it's like, oh, well, this is a shooter, and this one's also a shooter, but instead you're shooting aliens, and this one's a shooter, but instead you're shooting chickens, like that sort of thing, right? It's like, yeah, but it's still a shooter. At the end of the day, point, click it, point, gun it, body, click, go, boom. So to have a game that's like, hey, you're a delivery man. You deliver things from point A to point B. Hey, you know how like video game inventories are kind of crazy? Well, what if you actually had to carry all that shit, like physically carry it, and it was really heavy, and you had to like shift your weight around so that you didn't fall, right? That sort of thing. It's fun. Honestly, it's unique. It's different. I understand why a lot of people don't want to play it, and to each their own. But I had a whale of a time playing it, and it really had some moments in there that were really like quiet and calm, that made for an incredible experience. And I think it's one of those things that would be hard to let's play super well, because you would want to experience those moments of calm and relaxation, and you wouldn't be able to do that if you had to have some sort of entertaining personality, unless it was like a really low-key let's play the whole time. So I played and beat Death Stranding. So for a while, I'm not sure if I mentioned this ever, but I was working on a custom object implementation of my Denizen library. So custom objects are basically objects that you can refer to like this, I believe, and then you would type in the name of your custom object, right? So mine was library, like this, and then you could do something like what was one of them? I don't know, Q cycle, right? And the thing about that is, unlike like a regular procedure script, which would be something like proc Q, it would be proc like lib Q cycle, and then I would pass in the context to that, right? Instead you would have your library saved, and then you would just do Q cycle and then pass in your stuff that way. And is that better? No. No, not really. No. It doesn't, there was no reason to do it that way. I wanted to see what custom objects could do, and I just kept using it longer and longer and adding more stuff to it and messing around with it, and it just got wildly out of hand. They're kind of cool because they can like hold state, because they, they're property holder objects. You could pass stuff into them. They could hold data that like you couldn't normally, or like you would have to, like I could adjust my custom object to do things. So that was kind of cool. But it also meant that like I had to do some crazy over engineering that like if I passed a list in, I'd have to do all the like list processing that Denizen normally does inside Java. I had to then do it inside of Denizen instead, because custom objects didn't have that sort of stuff implemented. And yeah, I made it much more complicated than it needed to be. And then Monkey got upset because he was like, I told you not to do that, and then you kept doing it for some reason. And so I ended up just getting rid of the implementation, throwing it into my experiments on my GitHub, and just sort of going back to regular procedures. But then, at that point, it was easier for me to, instead of just like get a really old version, because I had created new stuff in the interim, and so instead of going to an old version that didn't have that new stuff, I just sort of rewrote my entire library again. Arguably, it's cleaner now. I think a lot of the logic is simpler. It's funny, because when I look at like libraries I've written, and then I come back, like a month or something later, I'm like, or a year later, or whatever, I'm like, wow, this is so bad, like this is so over engineered, or this is missing some like basic shit, like I had a library for DOM manipulation for JavaScript, so I could change how the website looked through JavaScript really easily. Basically, I was recreating jQuery because I don't like jQuery, and I was doing that, and I came back to it recently, and some of it's useful. Like the idea of having a custom DOM manipulation library where you kind of want something like jQuery, but you don't need the whole fucking thing, right? You just want maybe like some really basic shit. Yeah, totally understandable. You could have like a fucking 50 kilobyte file instead of a like 6 megabyte file, right? I get it. You don't need a backhoe, you need a shovel. But what I wrote originally was so bad that it was insane. Like I was rereading it and I was like, did I know how to write JavaScript? Because this insinuates that I didn't at all. It's really bad. So I've been kind of rewriting it a little bit. I don't know. I can't fucking stay focused on anything. But yeah, I got a new computer. That's one. New computer with an Intel i9 11900 or something like that. I'd have to double check. And a 3080, which is huge. Absolutely huge. So huge. So I got my wife a 3080. Arguably for her birthday, although it took like almost an entire year for me to actually get it. So I was gonna get it for her birthday and then, or Christmas, I can't remember, and then it ended up taking until like 2 months ago. But I got it, and then recently she mentioned, I got it, and then I didn't have money to get one for myself, even though I really wanted one. And then recently, like a month ago, she was like, hey, they are doing the computers again. You should be able to buy one again. So I went and I bought one, dropped another 3K, bought a new computer. It's great. It's awesome. Yeah. I have a 3080 and I've not used it for anything. I've used it to just fucking play the same games I was already playing. But it's nice to be upgraded. All the architecture I had was really old and it didn't really have much upgradable room anymore. So, other interesting notes. Over the last month, I applied to the Hytale team for the game Hytale. If you guys don't know, Hytale is basically like, and I'm sure they're probably fucking sick of this analogy. Very similar to Minecraft, like it's a block-based game. But it's like if Minecraft was written by a team of developers who already had experienced the block game before, right? Because when Minecraft came out, there wasn't anything like it. So a lot of what Notch was doing originally was sort of unexplored territory. And it's, you know, it's a good game. Like, it's a huge game. Arguably, it's the, I think, most popular game in the world. That being said, there's a lot that needs to be changed. So first of all, like, the code base is a fucking nightmare. Java is a nightmare. And instead of fixing it, they just sort of rewrote the whole thing in C. And then they have it so that now they've split the player base into 2 groups. The Java version is missing a lot of things that feel sort of like obvious for a block game. Like, it feels like you would want to have your block game have lots of, like, if it's a moddable focused block game, right? You'd want people to be able to manipulate and modify the game easily, right? Because right now, what people are doing with actual mods is just straight up loading fucking Java code, random any Java code into the game, right? Just full on, pure, unadulterated code. And for plugins, kind of similar, there are some restrictions about how you can modify the game, but you're still effectively running just pure fucking Java code, which is a way, but that's not modding, really. I mean, like, it's modding as in you're modifying the game, but that is just, you're just adding on to the game. Like, a good modification system should be a system that, you know, is already in place for the game. Like, the game has come pre-packaged with it, so that when people want to make these changes, they don't have to, like, almost break the fucking game to get it to work the way that they want it to. And so, and you know, how could Notch really have known that, I guess? He was just kind of making a fun little experiment. Like, graphically, it's okay, right? It's not bad, but, like, can you see the anti-aliasing on the screen? I don't know if YouTube compression fucking kills it, but anti-aliasing is a thing, and if I were to go into my video settings, what? Nothing there, guys. There's nothing there. I mean, how long has this game been out? And we've still got, like, trash fucking, like, you have to download mods that fix that for you. Stuff like, oh, I want an NPC, like, an NPC like this. Not available normally in the game, right? That is something a player has to create for the game. Fucking lighting engine? Psh, doesn't exist. Not a fucking thing. The way that they do chunks, oh, you mean one entire fucking block from ceiling to ground? That's so, like, that doesn't make any sense, because anytime you want to make the world height bigger, you're gonna have to, the chunks will get bigger. And that's the reason that they haven't been able to upgrade things like, they haven't been able to upgrade the chunk system until recently because the fucking hardware didn't exist for it. Nowadays they're like, yeah, hardware's big enough that we could probably double the size of the chunks and it won't break people's computers too bad. Instead of just actually writing it in in an efficient way, right? This sounds like I'm just sort of complaining about Minecraft, which to be fair, I kind of am. But my point is that the game was not made being forward thinking about these things. The game was made as sort of a fun little experiment by Notch, and he didn't expect it to sort of turn out as it did, and now it's too popular, and they almost don't want to change it too much. But Hytale, new, right? Totally new, fresh from the block. You have people who were working on the Hypixel Minecraft server, right? The big multiplayer Minecraft server. And you have all these guys who have had so much experience fucking around with Minecraft and changing it, modifying it, and everything like that. And they're thinking to themselves, what if we made Minecraft? What if we, with all of the experience we have of having to change and modify and mess with it, right? And we wanted to make like a better version of this game, right? What would we take from this and learn, right? As far as the single player experience goes, right? Creativity, great, but everyone can craft nowadays. Crafting isn't a big thing. And building, while cool, any survival game has some sort of building mechanic. So just having a building crafting game is not enough. And that's one of those things that Minecraft, right, fucking kills in the building aspect, but you're just building in empty worlds for people who don't exist against no threat. And there's no thing to work towards, right? You don't have to build anything more than a dirt hut, right? If you wanted if you wanted to truly be safe in Minecraft, you could literally just boom, now you're safe. Put a fucking door on the front, you're safe, right? I think only on hard do you starve to death. So before that, you'll just starve down to 1 heart. You could literally, I'm not sure about the timing, but you could probably have a single carrot growing beneath your feet, and that might keep you alive. I'd have to double check that. But the point is that, yeah, you don't need to do a lot for the survival portion of it, right? So it's not really a survival building game, and it's not an adventure building game. They have things you can explore, but they have been sort of haphazardly added over years of the game being out that haven't really connected to other things, right? You have things like, what do you call that? A forest building, dark forest mansion, something like that. I can't remember. A dark forest mansion or whatever, right? Cool building, big old building in the middle of a dark forest with vindicators and stuff like that. Wow, dope. But it's just there. There's nothing driving you towards it, right? Like as far as gameplay, when gameplay is designed, the game is designed to want to drive you towards certain things and say, hey, these are the things we want to be working on. Here are your reasons for doing the things that you're doing, right? And they don't have to always be super strong reasons. You don't need like here's a timer, get this shit done, or the game will explode. Like sometimes just a little bit of motivation is enough. And to be fair, there is a little bit of motivation here. Oh, you do build a little bit to prevent yourself from dying. But then you're like, oh, I want a little bit more room, so you expand for space for your chests, and then you're like, oh, I need more materials, and then you're like, it's kind of hard to keep chopping down trees, so you set up a farm. Players can build that themselves. They don't need a lot, and it's clear by Minecraft that a lot of players will sort of take it upon themselves to do that. But I know personally someone who has been playing Minecraft for a long time that the justification isn't enough. I think for newer people, absolutely, but that's one of the reasons that mod in Minecraft is so popular, is that just having you don't have enough in the base game to convince you to do those sorts of things. And so adding mods to add quests and things like that, they're giving you basically justification and reason for building those places and staying within that consistent world and so on and so forth. And Hytale, same thing. They're building an adventuring game, and they're giving you the justification for being a part of that world and playing in that world. And giving you the tools to change it and modify it easily if you want to, and do it in such a way that, like, because right now on plugins, as far as plugins goes with Minecraft, if you have a plugin and you try to change like an actual integral part of the game, it doesn't work, right? You can't really, you can add to the game, but you can't, you can change the game, but you can't add to it. So I could fucking make it so that all chickens are constantly flying, but I can't add a new block, right? Something that seems conceptually pretty simple is impossible to do. And so, having a game that has the modability that you can change those things, you can change those things easily, and you can do it in such a way that if you change it and people start playing, they don't have to like download anything or anything like that. It just kind of works instantly. And you don't have to learn a whole actual, language to do these things. Yeah, so Hytale, it's fucking fantastic. If you guys haven't seen the trailer for Hytale, it's so weird. Like me talking about like my theories about Hytale and like my like sort of conception of why a Hypixel game would step out from something like Minecraft and strike out to make their own thing, and have been working on it for years and years, right? And it's just kind of interesting to sort of postulate, like, what would sort of push someone to want to do something like that. Like, I personally totally understand. Like, I know some people maybe are like, I don't know, Minecraft's great. Like, why bother making a whole new game? You know, you're just going to be competing. But I think that they're going to bring enough to the table. If you look at it, too, the art direction of Hytale is insane, like with the lighting engine and the particles and the like blocks is very clearly a voxel game, but the models, right, the character models, some like ores and tools and stuff like that, like stuff feels more lively even being constrained within a it feels almost like block focused lower poly art style, right, but not limited to blocks, where it feels like sometimes Minecraft almost put themselves into a hole where they were like, we have to be blocks only. Everything has to be made of blocks in some way. Hard right angles only. You know, nothing curved, or not curved, but nothing sideways, nothing at a 45-degree angle. Everything's gonna be hard corners. And I feel like that limits Minecraft, and yeah, the Hytale guys were like, yeah, let's just make a fucking game where we're not limited by that sort of stuff. Where it doesn't feel weird if we were to introduce a model that had like, that was, you know, tilted, and it wouldn't feel like it conflicted with the entire art style of the game, that sort of thing. So I totally get it, and I was super fucking hyped, and I applied, and I actually got the first of 6 interviews. It is a 6-interview process. So you have the first interview where they get to know you, then you have, 5-interview process. Is that right? I have to double check. It's either 5 or 6. But the idea is like the first interview, you have to, or so you reach out, you apply, and then they reach out and they say, oh, hey, how are you? We would like to get to know you better. And they do a get to know you better interview. After that, they do 4 interviews done by different people who are basically interviewing you for different portions of the job. And the reason why they do that is so that if somebody, like, you're not getting, like, what's it fucking called? You're not getting, like, one person who is, like, maybe biased or something, and their opinion is coloring the whole thing, right? You have 4 different people, right? So it becomes a little bit more democratic that way. There's actually 6, now that I've looked it up. There's between the screening and the blind panel, there's a hiring manager in between those. So I had the first, but not the second, I think. And I did not get to the 4. Or did I have the second? Fuck, I don't know, dude. I don't know! The point is, I didn't get to the 4 interviews, and then after that, you have a final interview, and then that's it. And so, I had that, and I'm still fucking here. I'm not working at Hypixel Studios. I'm not working on Hytale. But it was kind of cool to reach out and kind of get farther than I had imagined. Like, I have done all sorts of neat shit before, right? But I've never really worked in an environment with other people. I've never really produced any games, and I just don't know any fucking languages well enough. Because God, I can't stay on anything. I could jump all over the place, constantly jumping. So yeah, fucking yes, I'm too inconsistent, but it's cool. It was nice to have the experience of getting to interview. All right, so let's see. Saints and Sinners, a new computer, interview. What else have I done? Oh, and the last thing is I got access. This was really recently. I got access to GPT3. And so for those of you that don't know, GPT-3 is the AI system created by OpenAI, which is kind of tangentially related to like Elon Musk and that stuff. Or Microsoft, I can't remember. Anyways, it's like a group that is developing an AI, and GPT-3, it stands for General Purpose Transformer, and the idea is that it is a text generation AI that can be used for anything, right? So most AIs are specifically formatted or formulated to be one thing. So if you wanted an AI that could only classify cats, you'd have to give it a million pictures of just cats so that it would know what a cat was, right? Or a bunch of pictures of cats and a bunch of pictures of not cats, right? And it would slowly learn over time what a cat was. But it could only ever do that, and it couldn't ever tell you if something was a dog. But GPT-3 basically was given like the entire internet in 2019 or something around there, right? Which is when it came out. They gave it the Common Crawl dataset, which is like basically a majority of the ClearNet. And they were like, here, have this. And so it kind of, from so much training data, kind of has a general sense, it's kind of in everything, right? So you want to say, hey, can you answer these questions for me? Like, somewhere down the line, people did ask questions to each other, right? Maybe it pulled a bunch of shit from Quora or Yahoo Answers. So it has a concept of what a question and how to answer it is, right? Like, in the numbers, in the data, it's been formulated such that, like, it can it can sort of give you that answer. It knows what should follow, which is an answer when you give it a question. Or if it's a conversation, it knows that when a conversation goes this way, the most likely next thing would be this, blah, 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 blah. And you can use the same neural net for all of this. And it uses something called either 0, 1, or few-shot learning, which is basically, in some cases, you give it basically no examples, and it just figures it out instantly. And in some cases, you have to give it like 1 or 3 examples of like what it is that you're looking for. Maybe like up to 10, right? You tend not to need to do a whole ton, but you give it some examples, and then it usually by that point is like, I know how to do this. I get it. And from then on, it can just sort of go off. And do that thing usually pretty well. I find it struggles a little bit with factual stuff, but you can turn down the creativity, quote unquote, and it's a little bit better. But yeah, the thing is, it's pulled from Common Crawl, which means that when other people are wrong, it can also be, it's been trained with wrong information, effectively, right? It's also been trained with right information, but there's always that chance that it will give you the wrong stuff. So it can be a little bit tricky. But the cool thing is, you can give it to, you can basically, it's an API, right? Once you get access to it, you can request that API with your information and get back responses. And so what I've done is I've actually implemented that into Minecraft. I know this video is a bit long. Stick around. This part's interesting. I've given it within Denizen. I basically am just web getting the API, getting that response, and then turning it into a conversation with somebody. So real quick, let me make sure that the conversation with the captain is empty, because basically over time any conversation you would hold with somebody continues to stay in its memory. And I'm gonna change it so that like if you leave after you've been gone for like 10 seconds or something like that, it forgets the conversation, or maybe you go really far away, I'm not sure. But in the meantime, it does know what you previously said, and it holds that, so that way you can hold basic conversations with it. So just as a note here, real quick, if we look at this is all the code, which realistically is not a lot for what I've done, right? So starting here, we have on player chats, and when we chat, it finds the closest NPC within 5 blocks, and it sees if it has a personality, because it's something I kind of have to add. And so if it doesn't have a personality, don't worry about it. If it does have a personality, then it's going to see if that personality exists here. And if it does exist there, then we're going to run this task. And this task is basically going to pass in what we said. It's going to get the personality name from the NPC, and it's going to get the current state, which is an extra portion of the personality that's been added to each NPC. Within chat to AI, I access the API. I pass in this complicated thing basically, which is JSON. I've got the max tokens, which is like basically how many words, top P, which is like top percentage or something like that. It's like how of all of the options it gives you, how many of those options do you want to use or check? So we're checking 100% of the options right here. But if it was 0.5, it'd check like half of them. Frequency penalty, it's like if the AI repeats the same thing too many times, like how much does it get penalized for each repetition? And presence, I don't remember. It's a penalty system for something else, I can't remember. And then temperature, which is, I want to say kind of like creativity, not really kind of. It's just, this means it's more likely or less likely to pick what is like deterministic, the same thing, right? It's going to pick different things the higher number this is. And then stop is like, when it's printing text out, where should it stop doing text, right? At what point should it stop? And then this is a personality, right? So these are the 2 stop characters. I want it to stop on new lines, and I want it to stop on tilde. We've got Captain Markley. This is what a personality looks like. We've got the prefix for the player, right? So when the player is chatting, what does it look like? And when the character is chatting, what does it look like? And then who is. So in this case, the following is a conversation with a pirate named Captain Markley. And this one down here, the following is a conversation with a guy named David Jackson. And then after the who is, I pass in down here somewhere. Hold on. Get who is, and then pass in the state. And the state is that current state that we pass in. So if we check Captain Markley, personality, I don't know why I chose a word that I struggle spelling. Personality. You can see his personality name is Captain Markley. See, it's spelled a little bit different, so that's why that's there. And then current state, he is a gruff man but is fair and is willing to ferry people on his boat in exchange for gold or work. This part would change depending on what the NPC is doing, right? So if he was, say, like an NPC you interacted with in the world, like who had like a schedule, if he was walking to work, it would say he's a gruff man but fair. He is currently walking to his boat, or maybe it would say he's a gruff man but is fair, and is currently buying a new sword for his next adventure, right? So I can update his state for what the NPC was doing in the real world. So that gets passed in right here, and then the P combo is basically everything that has been said previously, which ends up in this conversation with whoever. So conversation with David or conversation with Captain Markley, right? And we just loop through it and get those messages out and then split them using that tilde up here, right? We just split the message each time. So all the previous stuff gets put in there, and then the new stuff gets put in as well. As you can see down here, previous stuff, new stuff. And the reason it's done that way is so that way, when you're holding a conversation, he doesn't immediately forget what you just said. So you can say contextually, if he says, we're gonna sail off, and you say, what time? Without context, he would be like, it's noonday, right? But with context, he knows you're basically asking, what time are we setting off? And so it responds more accurately that way. But obviously, I can't hold the every conversation we've ever had, so I do need to clear that at some point. I just haven't done it. And then, so we get that data, which ends up here, and then we send it off, and then we get a response, and then we take that response, we parse it out because it's JSON, and we get the first choice, which is the first, or we get the first text within the choices, and clean it up a bit, and then we have them narrate it, and boom. So really simple, right? This is, I mean, as far as stuff goes, this is all data, right? This is all personalities. So arguably, I can have as many or as few of these as I want. This is all the code for having effectively infinite conversations. And the only reason forum data and chat AI are separate is to keep things a bit cleaner. But yeah, it's this could all be done like in one event, really. And you end up with a situation where if I were to talk to David right here, if I, real quick, make sure I clear David's as well. And I said, hey, how can I help you, mister? Well, I'm a girl, so. Do you know the way to the Statue of Liberty? I think straight up, this NPC just misgendered me. That's a hate crime. Do you mean the what of lady? The big green statue? I know what you're talking about. You can catch the ferry to the statue from that dock right over there on the East River. I told David he knows everything about New York. And, I mean, funnily enough, this one isn't perfect because I find that caricatures, are easier for the AI to understand and represent than a specific person. Saying you are a person, it means that it's like, you know a lot about New York. It's like, what does that really mean? But if I just say, you're a pirate, I mean, like, fucking everybody knows how a pirate acts. So I say, here, NPC select, and then NPC look closed. And I say, hey there. Or we'll say, I also don't have to do it in, I don't have to type cleanly. I can just say, hey there. Yes, you, come aboard, I'll be leaving. So even messing up my spelling contextually understands that I'm greeting them, right? Yes, you, come aboard, I'll be leaving soon. Where are you going? No question marks, still gets it. I'm headed to Dunspire. What the fuck is happening? I thought I cleared the conversation with Captain Markley. I must not have. What is it? No. What? No. I didn't clear the conversation because Dunspire is the name of the place I keep calling it. I won't be going back, but you might as well come with me. Here, hold on. Sorry, I'm sorry. I gotta wipe your brain again. I didn't do it right the first time. Captain Markley. Ahoy. Ahoy there. Is this your boat? Imagine he was standing in front of a boat, right? I.e. this is my ship, the green sail. The green sail is something I told him ahead of time. If we were to check Captain Markley stuff, oh, no, it doesn't show up there. It's over here. If we check in his personality, right here, I'm Captain Markley, owner of the vessel, the green sail. That's all of the backstory I've given him. So when you'll notice there's more for David, because trying to figure out how a person talks without coming across weird, that one was tricky. Pirate's easy, right? Only thing I've told him is that he owns a boat called the Green Sail. So if I were to ask him, hey, this is my ship, the Green Sail. Do you take passengers? I do indeed, though. Hold on, I gotta do a fucking pirate accent, am I right? I do indeed, though it be my last trip for the day. But if you be looking for a bit of work, I can let you ride for free. Perhaps that would make up for your time. Where are you going? I'm going to the Dwarven land. See, I didn't tell him where he's going, so he just comes up with something. He just makes some shit up. But I could tell him, I could tell him specifically that he's only going to Dunspire, and that's what he would do. I'm going to the Dwarven lands if you think you can help me out. I need to buy some new supplies, and I'd be thinking the dwarves would have what I need, right? Isn't that fucking incredible? Now check this shit out, right? We're going to clear a conversation with him, and we are going to reflag his personality. Oops, sorry. That would be player.precise target and his personality. And this is all it takes to change his personality or update it in any way. Before it said, he's a gruff man, but is fair and is willing to ferry people on his boat in exchange for gold or work. I could say he is a gruff but fair man and is willing to ferry people on his boat in exchange for gold or work. He is going to Dunspire, right? So now I've pre-programmed him. This is, by the way, this is how programming, just writing out a description, like you're writing a backstory for a character. That's fucking how programming the AI works. It's so cool. So I literally just say he is going to Dunspire. I could say he's going to Dunspire for exotic weapons. All right, send that off. Now we say, hey. He says, hey, isn't that a pirate name? You looking for a job? No, my name. Oh, he's just talking about my name, Jumpspot 120. That's hilarious. I got a ship that needs to be fought off, so it needs the right crew. Interested. Where are you going? That sentence didn't really make sense, what he just said, because, again, it is an AI, so it's not perfect. He's gonna come up with some weird fucking phrases. I'm gonna say, where are you going? I got me a friend that owns a shop in Dunspire. He can get some pretty interesting weapons. I'm gonna pick up a haul from him from some of my contacts in the area. Which is what we just told. That was his backstory. We just said, your backstory's like this, bro. Basically, he's like a fucking actor. And he's like, I don't have any lines. We're like, you're an improv actor. You got this. He's like, okay. And we're like, but you're a pirate. You're a pirate. You're going to Dunspire, and you're picking up some weapons. He's like, great. I'll just come up with everything else on the fly. Whatever you tell me, I've got it locked away. Anything you don't tell me, I'll just make some shit up. So we tell him, hey, you're going to Dunspire for exotic weapons. We ask him, hey, where are you going? He says, I got me a friend that owns a shop in Dunspire. We didn't write that line for him. Right? We didn't say some pretty interesting weapons. We had said exotic. He just said pretty interesting, which is a totally legitimate way to sort of parse that out effectively, right? A pirate might say, he can get me some pretty interesting weapons. I'm going to pick up a haul for him from some of my contacts in the area. Fucking incredible. The amount of time I've spent fucking around with it. So I really want to make some like crazy NPC shit with this, and I just haven't like figured out what I want to do yet. But it's incredible. That's GPT-3. That's everything I've been doing for the last month and some change. I know this video is a little bit long, but I'd like to thank you for watching. Yeah, comment, like, subscribe if you want. I want to do more stuff about this specifically. I might, if I have the fucking wherewithal to do anything, I might make some videos about some of the games I've been playing. God, I really want to make some VR videos. I just have not been doing it. But in any case, thanks for watching. Wear your seatbelt. I'll see you later.